1. Welcome back, YouTube. We're Celestial Kingdom. This is our 60th MidReign. We've got a couple more sessions still lined up today. This one is a 2-hour special presentation. We have Baroness Ayanka out of the wetlands. She'll be cooking feast for us. Earlier in the day, you may have seen Surreal McLeod of the Celestial Kingdom baking a cake. It wasn't quite done and ready. It was still a little gooey in the middle when she had to go so that we could have Sir Gavin tell us how to do a wonderful feast. But now I think Surreal reports that the cake is ready and frosted. So Surreal, click on your thing to see.
Hi, everybody. Okay, yes. So I got my cake out of the oven and I did make the icing. And we do have our final product right here. I don't know if we can see it. Can you see the cake?
Yum!
There's the chocolate cake.
And it looks like.
And as requested, because I'm taking this one to Dahlin and Claudia's house, she wanted a small portion with the pecans on top. My family and Dahlin and Alora apparently don't want pecans on their part, so the majority of the cake.
Dahlin does.
All right. Well, you got my family doesn't like the nuts either, so you've got the small portion of just the crushed pecans, or not crushed, chopped pecans on there. And so, yeah, we have our Texas chocolate sheet cake. And I'm trying real hard not to take a piece.
I won't be mad if it comes by.
Well, I'm going to have to leave some for Alex and Shelby. I mean, I'm not a horrible mom. I'm going to leave some of them some cake. But I'm trying to eat healthier. And so I'm like, I just made a cake. And I'm the only one here. It's just me and a cake all alone.
Well, we'll try to keep you entertained in your mind off that cake. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Do we have Starshine still on our list? No, it looks like she disconnected already. Very sad. Hopefully she comes back maybe sometime within the next 2 hours and we can see what her cake looked like. She did have to run out to the store to buy
powdered sugar. Yes, she forgot her powdered sugar.
Yeah, so she's probably still out shopping. But once she comes back, she'll be mixing the final frosting and then putting it on her hopefully still warm cake. I cannot wait to have some of that chocolate cake myself.
I'm going to bring it over tomorrow. I'm not going to bring it today. Because you're going to be busy anyway, and BOD meeting's at 8. I'm going to bring it tomorrow.
Okay,
it'll still be
sounds good.
Okay, all right. Bye, everybody.
Wait there, I'm not done with you, young lady. Ayanka, when you are ready to go with your speaker, go ahead and just click on back in, turn on your video, and I'll know that you're ready to go.
There she is.
There she is. Okay, so while Ayanka's setting up, I want you, Surreal, to think about the very last question that came in for you. We did not get a chance to get to.
Question, the one that made me mess up my tablespoons versus teaspoons?
No. It's a different question. It's a different question. So the question was, who has the best garb in the kingdom? So think about that answer real quick, because I know it's going to be hard. I'm going to click over to Ayanka so she can get us started. Right. And then when she has her break, you can come back and give us your answer. Who do you think has the best garb in the CK?
Okay.
All right, Ayanka, take it away.
Okay. Hi, guys. Ayanka, Baroness Ayanka, still getting used to that. From the wetlands. I hail from Ironwood originally. I've been in Amtgard now for, I think it's 5 years in December now. And I've been very active in the services with cooking and just all the different involvements with that. So I'm very excited. Hey, look, there's the microphone. I'm very excited about doing this. This is this is an exciting adventure for me. I've been anxious and super stoked about it. So what I did was, I just got a few items prepped and everything to go so that it's quick and easy for us to go and get through this. This is not a difficult thing to do. So if you are cooking along, I promise if you need me to halt for a moment, just, I don't know, shout out something. Just let Claudia know to tell me to stop so we can do that, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get started with just getting some items prepped before we actually start the cooking process. So first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I've got my cutting board ready and my knife. Now this cutting board, as you can see, it can kind of wobble around if you don't have little feet on it or a good surface. So I'm going to show you a little trick to help it from moving first, because knife safety is very important. So we're going to get a paper towel and just get it damp. Okay, so just follow along. Just get it damp. We're going to stick it underneath.
So Yanka, it looks like you've got 2 cutting boards. You've got your beautiful marble countertop, you've got your wood slab, and then you've got this black plastic thing that was sliding around that you're putting your wet piece of friction.
Okay, so this is actually one of those tall tables. I just moved it close to the stove for ease of prep work. So
Okay.
this is actually the only cutting board that I'm going to be using. But if you look at the cutting board now, I can get the table to wobble, but it's not moving because of that wet paper towel. So that's just a little tip and trick for safety purposes. So let's go ahead and get started with food. We need to get our collard greens. And if you got a bag of collard greens and they're already cut and sliced, you can just give them a good rinse. But if you didn't buy the already sliced up bag, we're going to need to slice and rinse these off. So let's go ahead and get these ready because the rest of the stuff is not as time consuming.
And just so that you know, those of you who are following along on YouTube, her menu today is going to be cinnamon fried pork chops, collard greens with bacon, corn casserole, and fried apples. All of this made for you live in the next hour 45 minutes. I don't know how you're going to do all of those dishes in only an hour 45.
It's just a matter of overlapping your items that you're cooking.
Okay, so right now we're starting with those collard greens with bacon. There is an ingredients list. Those of you following along on YouTube, I will get those in the chat box. And then listen to the doobly-doo if you want to go back and watch it later. Those of you who are on Discord, I'm about to spam those ingredients now.
All right, so give those a good little shake just to get some of that water off. And we're going to go ahead and I like to snap the ends off before I start cutting through the stems. But what you're going to be wanting to do is you want to get them flat. At least this is how I learned to do it. And you're just going to cut right along the stem portion. And it comes right off.
Now, why don't you want to have the stems there? Is there a particular reason?
Well, the stems are a bit tougher, and they don't cook down like the leaf part does. So I like to cut the majority, if not all, of the stem out because they don't cook down and they can be crunchy and hard on your teeth. And some people don't like it. If you get the bag stuff, you'll have chunks of the stem, which is fine. You can pick it out, which is what I do sometimes. And I'm not tossing stuff on the floor. I have a bowl that I'm just putting little bits and pieces in so that it's not in the way. You could do another way.
Awesome.
It's already folded. Just go right along that line. So as I do this, I'm going to go ahead and get it chopped as well. Now, depending on how large you want your chunks, depends on how large you're going to cut those chunks. They cook down really well, so I'm going to keep them a decent size.
Okay, so while she whips her blade through that, let me pull Surreal back on camera to answer that question that we had asked of her. Who has, in her opinion, the best garb in the CK?
If you're looking at armor, I'm gonna have to go with Torque and Bog. The armor that they have made is incredible. If you're looking at cloth garb, Mokushi's garb is amazing, and then what Hopper makes for Jamie, Death Lily Megatron Sunshine, his garb is amazing as well. Midnight is wonderful for always having the color and the bright, the fun RP aspects. But it's a hard question because someone's gonna be like, why did they say me? But
Yeah.
Jill Mukushi makes incredible guard. Like that entire Slytherin outfit that she made for Winter Garb was so cool. And then I mean, I've seen pieces from other people like Heather Diamond, Illustrates the stained glass tunic that she did was amazing. And then of course, but Hopper's like the things she's been making for Death Lily Megatron Sunshine are so cool. And then like I said,
was it Argus? Was it Argus that was wearing something by Brenda?
Oh yes, yes.
The
Renteria, Danica. She made that. I always call people by their real names. Danica made that for Argus. That native looking tunic that was amazing. So I mean, people if people that sometimes don't make a lot of pieces, but then they'll come up with something like that, and it's like Danica. That piece is absolutely amazing. Danica did an incredible job on that piece. So it's so hard to say whose is the best, but we do have some amazingly talented people, and people keep doing things and pushing the limits and really just making awesome stuff, and it's so cool to see. And then of course I get jelly, so it's like that.
If we're gonna talk awesome garb and jealous garb, and Cash, Admiral and Cash, Her Majesty of the Nine Blades.
The 9 blade, that beaded
the gown she wore to the COM.
That beaded dress with the 50,000 beads, hand beaded. All right, I don't know if it was 50,000. It was some obscene amount of beads.
It was over 10,000. It was over 10,000 beads. They were individually hand beaded. I was on a chat with her several days before that event went out, where she was talking about that dress and the inspiration. She said, she's like, I wanted something. I think it was for her knighting. She wanted something grand. She was looking at Queen Elizabeth, and she goes, girl loves her pearls, but you know what? I'm going to outdo the queen. And so she found some research, found some blog posts about how many pearls were on that particular dress, and then cranked it by to 11.
Right? That's amazing. So, I mean, just the talent that people are bringing, because like Lyndon, she got her crown, her master crown last night. She does amazing garb too. And then she does amazing garb work. And my grand knight, Dame Aurora, she does amazing garb work as well. And so it just, there are so many people that are so talented, and there are people in the wetlands that make amazing stuff.
Speaking of wetlands, Ayanka, who do you think has the best garb in your kingdom?
Oh, she's gonna get in trouble for that. That's a hard question. I don't think she can hear us.
Kingdom?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's a very hard question. I'm really gonna have to think on that. There's so many amazing pieces that I've seen. Chewy and Gina always come with fantastic pieces. First one to really come to mind though, and it might not be fair because I love him, and he also does the SCA stuff. Sly is always on point. He has amazing garb for events, whether it's him just cooking fireside in camp or he's dressed to the nines for court. I love what he and Say, his girlfriend, come to events dressed as. Let's see. Sir Mouse, when she got her knighthood, that gown she had made, if you didn't see pictures of that, you missed out. There's a reason she earned that masterhood to get knighted for that garb. She's amazing.
Someone find me that pic, drop it in Discord, and I'll see if I can't get it out so we can see it on the stream. Awesome.
Yeah,
So we're
I mean,
still deboning the collard greens, yes?
yes, we are almost done deboning.
It sounds like we're talking about a carcass. We're
I
deboning.
know, right? A lot of times, because I'm a lazy cooker, a lot of times I would rather use the bag of collard greens, but I decided to go this route so that those who did not want to buy a 4-pound bag of pre-chopped collard greens, so if they bought just 2 stalks, I could show them how to do this, because otherwise you end up with almost an entire bag of collard greens left. Depending on how many collard greens you like eating, you'll have a ton left, which you can freeze and use, which is what I do, because it's just me, and I don't eat that much at a time. So, all right, let's see. I've got a couple stragglers in the sink, but I think we are just about done with these. All right, so I'm gonna leave that aside for now and give my cutting board a quick rinse.
And if you've got any questions for Ayanka when she's doing these kind of quick cleanup things, you are welcome to either drop it in the Discord. I'll watch for those and I'll read those out for her. Or if you feel like having your voice, maybe your beautiful face on camera, feel free to unmute your mic, turn on your camera, ask that question of her, have a conversation with our wonderful chef, Baroness Ayanka. And yeah, what's next?
Okay, so we're gonna do our corn casserole next. This is the item that takes the longest because we're baking it. It's gonna bake for, I wanna say about an hour is what the recipe calls for. I do use a natural recipe for this one because it is the recipe that I received from my, ready for this, my sister's boyfriend's mother. First time I ever had corn casserole was at her Thanksgiving that she hosted at her old house in Kingwood. And it was, oh my God, amazing. So I had to have that recipe. And she, of course, was kind enough to make a photocopy of it for me. So this is the only recipe that I'll use. And what's really special about this recipe as well is it's been about a year now where she did suddenly pass away. So I've made this for her son a couple times since because it was his favorite that she would make for him. So this is a very special recipe I'm sharing with you guys. So we're going to go ahead and get this going. It's real easy. We need a box of Jiffy.
Of Jiffy?
Jiffy cornbread.
Okay, my brain went, peanut butter?
No, not peanut butter. Although that's an interesting idea.
Not in this recipe.
Not in this recipe, I promise. All right, so we're gonna do 1 box of Jiffy cornbread mix.
Got it.
Okay. We need 1 can of cream corn and 1 can of regular corn. So we're just gonna.
I have to say, I love your camera work. So props to your cameraman. Hello, cameraman. Cameraman, camera woman, camera
Cameraman.
person, cameraman.
Cameraman.
Thumbs up. Love it.
All right, so we just drained the kernels. Throw those in. Cream corn. Pop that in. All right, so we're going to also half a stick of melted butter. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this ready. I'm gonna save the other half, keep that out and available because we're gonna be using that with our collard greens to get the onions and garlic going. And we're also gonna be using butter in the apple recipe because who doesn't love butter?
So we had in part 1 of this little mini series, the refrigerator raiders, which now is what I'm going to call you for the rest of eternity, by the way. You're not Rogers Raiders anymore. You're the refrigerator raiders. The Raiders, the first part of them cooking feast for us today was Cyril McLeod with the cake. We saw her share the finely frosted cake, and I'm so excited to have that in my house so I can put it in my mouth. But she used 3 full sticks of butter for that recipe. How many sticks of butter are going to be in yours?
So in the cornbread, it's only half a stick of butter. But with the fried apples, you can go from half a stick to a full stick. It depends on how much you want in that juicy cinnamon sugar mixture for like a sauce. I like a sauce in it because I'll then take that sauce and drizzle it over the pork chop like a gravy. And who doesn't like gravy?
Hang on, I need to reapply my lipstick. I've drilled so much.
Okay, so next item we're gonna do, we're gonna throw in 8 ounces or 1 cup of sour cream. So that goes right in there.
And this is still the corn casserole?
This is still the corn casserole.
So right now we've got the 1 box of Jiffy cornbread mix. We've got the drained can of whole corn kernels. We've got the can of cream corn. We've got the 8 ounces of sour cream. And now you're about to pour in half a stick of melted butter, salted or unsalted?
I always go with unsalted because I like to have a little bit more control with the amount of salt that I use in a recipe.
Okay.
I have control issues.
Don't we all, honey?
Yes.
I feel a little bit like Iron Chef rattling off recipes, trying to keep up with you.
Yes. Okay, so now we need our 2 eggs. So there's 1. And 2. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn my oven on. A lot of people like to get it prepped, get it preheated earlier. I don't like turning it on until I'm getting ready to mix because I'm gonna let this sit for a minute to kind of let it marry. I don't really know if that does anything. I'm not a professional cook, but that's kind of what I like to do. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Fair enough. So preheat after all the ingredients are in the bowl, but before you take your whisk, and then you're gonna let the stuff. Oh, you threw in some eggs in there. I see some eggs in your bowl.
2
She
eggs.
snuck that in when I was not paying attention.
You were not looking.
I wasn't. I'm sorry. I've got like 4 different conversations happening over here that I'm trying to keep up with on top of all this.
Look at that.
But yeah, so added 2 eggs to that mixture. She's giving it a quick whisk, beating it up a little bit, and then you're gonna let it hang out and chill before you put it in the baking dish and throw it into the oven.
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple minutes to hang out. Now you asked about the salted or unsalted butter.
Yes, ma'am.
I said unsalted, and that's because again, I like to control my salt. So I'm gonna put a few turns of my salt. I'd say no more than 1/8 of a teaspoon would probably be plenty. I apologize about measurements ahead of time because I don't cook well with measurements. That's why I'm not a baker. I do all of my cooking by using 3 senses, sight, taste, and smell. Now, if I'm grilling, I also use touch because I can touch a piece of meat, especially steak, and tell you where it's at. So
So you don't cook the way I do. I season with the sense of my ancestors is I just keep pouring it in until I hear someone over my shoulder go, "Yamika, enough."
Love it. All right.
Tell us in the comments or in the text chat if how you season, and I'll try to read those out. Surreal did comment that everything is better with lots of butter. Thadagrin says that he needs to use a thermometer. Well, not that he needs to use a thermometer, but that thermometers are very important and required for colorblind cooks that can't see when things change. Sorry for misreading that. And then Allura Dragon would like to give a friendly reminder to everyone watching that planet Earth is a dense molten core encased in a layer of solids. Therefore, technically speaking, it's a ravioli.
Well, I love pasta, so that sounds fantastic to me.
And see, now I want it. Sorry, aggressive. Continue. Sorry.
All right, so while that's hanging out and while we're waiting for our oven to preheat, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting the stuff together for our collard greens, because that's the next thing that's gonna take a bit longer, because we need to let it cook all down, and then we need to let all the flavors marry, and so it does a lot of simmering. So let's go ahead and get started on that. We are going to start
So we're bouncing
with
back to collard greens.
bacon. Okay. I like to cut mine in half because then I can just kind of slide it on out.
Now, in Gavin's presentation, the last hour, he had said that when you're prepping food, you want to prep as much of the vegetables as you can and then do the raw meats. And if we notice here, Yanka is following that best practice. She has prepped all the collard greens. She's done all of that vegetated stuff. She even prepped her cornbread, which is also technically a vegetable. Washed her hands, gave them a quick rinse, and now she's off into the raw meat products. So,
Yes.
Gavin, I see you on the line. She doing good with that best practice? Gavin's on the line. His mic is unmuted, but I don't think he's at the computer. So go.
That's all right.
One thing about seasoning, you guys were talking about seasoning, is to season every step of the way. That way, the seasoning's incorporated well into the food. If you wait to the very end, what happens is you get a lot of salt that's undissolved. So you season it, you taste it, and then 15 minutes later, it's super salty. So you want to season during the cooking process, not waiting.
Thank you. That was Sir Gavin. He did not turn on his video, but I saw his icon blinking, so I knew it was. Thank you so much, Sir Gavin Goldmoon. From the CK, not from the wetlands. I got that corrected last hour. Sorry for mixing that up. Gavin, I don't know if you heard the question that I had posed to you earlier about Ayanka's best practice, her prepping her vegetable, the collard greens, before prepping the bacon raw meat.
True. And that's one thing to remember. If everything's going to be cooked, then it almost doesn't matter. Really, any raw vegetable, it definitely needs to be cooked first. If everything's going to be cooked, well, the cooking is what sterilizes. So in the case of the collard greens, maybe not so essential both cook. But if you're making a salad, you definitely don't want to prep your salad because that's
right. Now, there are two vegetables that I have not prepped yet, and that's because I need the bacon to cook before I add the onion and the garlic. So I do the bacon first. So I've got the bacon prepped. It's all sliced up into chunks. So we're going to go ahead and throw that into a larger skillet. I use a larger skillet because collard greens, again, they start off bulky before they shrink down. So I need more space. So I've got the bacon in there. I've got my heat set to about medium just to get it started. And I'm going to turn it up a little bit to about in between medium and high. That way it can start getting that nice bacon sizzle going. And then we're going to adjust the heat as we go because it's a constant process. At least that's what I've learned. So I just used raw meat on my cutting board and my knife. So I'm going to go ahead and get these washed.
Thumbs up for cooking the bacon first. So while you're doing that, Ayanka, I'm going to force you to multitask here. I'm going to ask you some of the same questions that got asked of Surreal earlier.
Okay.
Some of them are light questions, some of them are hard hitting. You already dealt with one of them, which was who do you think has the best garb in the kingdom? But I asked this one of Surreal. The question was, are UFOs real?
Am I what?
Are UFOs real?
Oh, real? Hold on. I've got water running. Hold on.
Hold on. Yeah, she's got water running. She can't hear me. And I don't want to yell too loud because then it's going to blow the speakers on the stream. So we'll give her a little bit to finish washing. We'll put that question out for those watching those in the Discord. Go ahead and leave that in the comment section on the general event chat. Your answer to the question: are UFOs real?
Oh, are UFOs real? Yes. I am a believer.
I've answered this question a couple times, and those who've been on the stream have already heard me. Yes, UFOs are very real. I'm a crafter, and I have a table and a box and bags and things full of unfinished objects.
Well, there you go. All right, so I've got the bacon going. We've got a nice sizzle happening. I'm going to turn that heat down just a smidge, and I'm going to go ahead and get my onion going. So I'm going to use a full onion, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it sideways, so I've got the butt end in the back with all the little furries, and then the front little knobby end. And so I'm going to go right down the center between the two and slice. So I've got a nice slice like that. I'm going to leave the furry little butt end, and I'm going to cut the front and just clear that out. I'm going to peel that back a bit. Oh, I love the smell of raw onion. And I'm going to go ahead and start slicing. Now I want to have this in not diced, but I want it in small chunks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the side and just do lines from not all the way in the back, but mostly to the back. And just do lines in chunks.
So Thadagrin posted a response to the unidentified question. He said, absolutely does he believe that UFOs exist, because if he doesn't know what it is, it's unidentified. And for him, most birds qualify because he doesn't know enough about them to tell them apart.
I'm going to go with the alien part. I like the alien idea. There's no way we're the only ones in this vast universe, space, whatever. Plus, I like the idea of aliens.
Right, except for the gray skin with the big eye. Oh, these creep me out. All right, so here's
in my bedroom. I'm fine.
Right. So, question for you,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I'm still trying to get to know you. I don't get to hang out with you a lot. You're always in the kitchen,
And you're
I'm always on the battlefield. Yeah, taking water to the fighters. So our words very rarely cross to the point where we can have a conversation. So I'm excited to have a conversation with you while you cook and I drink my tea.
Sounds
Have
good.
you ever been Monarch at any level, park or kingdom?
Yes, ma'am. I was Monarch of Ironwood. Ironwood went through a bit of a attendance fall, and at one point we were at Grand Duchy numbers. We never were officially made Grand Duchy, but we were at numbers, and we were consistently at numbers. And then there was, some stuff happened. You know how numbers kind of ebb and flow anyways with parks and things. Well, we had some stuff go on, and our park numbers started to dwindle, and we needed to get those numbers back up. So I stepped in and I took Monarch. I ended up with a fantastic team with me. I had Estrella as my PM. I had Greem. I know. He was my champion, and I believe it was Fenric was my regent. And the four of us sat down at the very beginning of our term. We came up with a written out plan, and by 3 months we were almost back to Duchy numbers within 3 months. So I'm quite proud of that.
That's amazing. And see, I asked that as starting question so that I could ask, if you have been our Monarch, what was the best part of one of your reigns? But that sounds like that was the best part.
We had our numbers were growing. you know, and with that, of course, that's your populace. And with those people, everybody was just having a fantastic time. We were playing games. We were having different fun little events each week where there was a theme. My favorite time to reign is always going through the winter season because there's so much you can do. So we did a lot with the holiday seasons and different events where we invited other people from the throughout the kingdom to come, and just it was fantastic. So I absolutely loved it, and I would definitely do it again, but I would like to step in as Kingdom Monarch at some point. I'm not so great online. I'm more of an in-person kind of person, so I'm waiting until we're back on the field again, and then we'll see what happens.
Fair.
Yeah. So, okay. My cameraman just pointed out to me that my oven is preheated and we are ready to rock and roll. So we want to go ahead and I'm going to use, you could use your standard like lasagna casserole dish if you want. I'm going to use my reusable, well, not reusable, but my throwaway pan. I'm going to just go ahead and get that ready. I'm going to use my cooking spray because it's easy and I'm a simple cook. If you have Crisco, you can use Crisco however you want to do it.
Surreal did comment on our Discord chat that she just learned a better way to cut onions from you.
Ah, well, you are welcome. Just got to watch this bacon.
Bacon goes from perfect to, oh, I burnt it really fast, just like rice.
Yes, and that's why I mentioned the temperature. I'm gonna keep kind of moving it around a bit here and there. We're gonna adjust it as we go. I know there's people who are like, oh, set it like this, and boom, it's magic. I bet you Gavin's one of those because I've seen him in the kitchen. I've worked with the man. I'm not one of those. All right, so we let this sit for just for a few minutes. I'm gonna give it a nice little stir again, and I'm just gonna pour that right on in. Oh,
and it remind me, the pan greased, not greased?
I used the cooking spray.
Okay, so you did grease it, but it was just like a little spray of pan.
Yeah, I sprayed the inside along the bowl and the bottom just because I don't want it to burn. And like I said before, I'm not a baker, so I'm more likely to burn things than not. All right, so that's in there. I'm gonna give it just like you would with a cake to try to get any air bubbles out. I'm gonna give it a couple little pounds on the counter. That is ready to go. We're gonna stick that right in the oven. So it's gonna go on the middle rack, just straight in towards the center. And we're gonna set that. And I'm gonna just double check. It says bake at 350 for 1 hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and set our timer.
And that time and temperature, did you get that from the Jiffy box?
That is actually coming from my
Your recipe.
From the recipe itself.
Ah, cameraman and helper. Look at that.
I know, it's fantastic. All right, so we've got bacon cooking. You can see how it's got the nice brown crispy edges going. I'm gonna let it cook just a little bit more before I throw the onion in. So while I'm doing that, I need to get our garlic ready. So I'm just gonna push the onion to the side. Now, I believe in my list of ingredients, I said 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. Well, the rule with garlic is if it says 2 to 3 cloves, that means 5 or 6. So just do as much as you want.
Garlic is good.
Garlic is good.
So what the recipe says, but just do whatever.
Yeah, do whatever you want. You want more garlic, do more garlic. So I'm going to use what's left of ours that we had here at the house. So if you're not familiar with garlic, a couple things to know. You've got your not really a shell, but you got to get all this stuff off of it. And also garlic can get the juice can feel a little sticky on your fingers. So just be aware of that. It's normal. So what we're going to do is to get this shell, this outer shell off, I'm going to take my knife, place it on top, and give it a nice little pop. You see how it just opened right up? And it peels right off. And that is clicking and popping a lot, so we're turning that down. So
Again, she had mentioned earlier about using those senses when she cooked. So she was listening to the sizzle of the bacon, realized it was sizzling a little more than what she'd wanted, and turned the heat down.
And if you're going to use canned or jarred garlic to prepare it properly, take the jar out of the fridge and throw it in the trash.
Thank you very much. That was a comment from Sir Gavin. Surreal's mentioning that now she learned how to deal with garlic too. So not only did she learn onions, now she learned garlic. Dad commented hashtag sticky fingers. I'm.
Oh, we almost lost a little piece. Gotcha.
Sorry, Sir Gavin, what were you saying?
Fresh garlic can't be beat. Jarred stuff is not a substitute.
All right. So let's give this a little stir. Yes, there we go. See how that crisped right up? I'm going to leave the bacon grease.
I'm so hungry.
I'm going to leave the bacon grease in it because we're going to use that to cook the onions. We're going to use that to cook down and marry all the flavors as well. And who doesn't like the flavor of bacon? So that's
the vegetarians.
Okay, well, they still love the flavor of bacon because they have the fake bacon. So, fair point.
I've got nothing.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get those in there. Give it a nice little stir. There we go. All right, so let's get back to our garlic. I'm just going to hold little pieces, and I'm just going to nice little slices. That one got out of the way.
I did find your post on the Kingdom of Wetlands Facebook page, Miss Ayanka. Being excited about doing today's live stream. Yes. In the comments, I did drop a link to the YouTube where this is being live streamed. So in case they want to comment there, and I put a link to the Discord that we're currently on in case they want to participate live. And again, I want to remind those that are listening that if you've got a question or want to make a comment, as long as Ayanka is not giving explicit directions, you're welcome to unmute your mic, turn on your camera, join in the conversation.
Garlic.
Like you're wishing this was smell-o-vision. Like,
oh, I know, right?
Cameraman
right, so
lucky.
First bit. I've got to chop the first bit. I'm just kind of putting it into a little pile together, and I'm just gonna put my palm at the tip and just kind of like a rudder, I guess. Put it back together. I'm gonna get it all. It's sticky fingers.
Hashtag sticky fingers.
Hashtag sticky fingers. So it depends on how much you want to do on your chopping. I don't need it super fine. I've seen Gavin do this smudging thing in the kitchen many times. I haven't tried it yet, but you know, he knows a lot more than I do. All right. So that's good. I think we've got enough garlic cut, sticky fingers, rinsing.
So while she's rinsing, a comment from Discord, Garrick Kershaw jumped in and said, watching you, as you were watching you slice up the garlic, he was like, I'm going to go and grab my jar of minced garlic now and have a sniff.
Yeah. You know, as much as I prefer the real garlic, like I said, I'm a bit of a lazy cooker. So I do keep a jar of the already minced garlic in my fridge. And on top of that, I always have my garlic powder. I never use garlic salt because, again, I have a control issue with salt. But I always have the garlic powder, and I use that even if I put real garlic in a recipe. I still use it. I have a garlic problem, if you want to call it a problem.
I don't know if I would call it a problem.
So if you take a look, you can see how the onions are getting a little translucent. So that's what we want to see here.
Oh, it looks so good.
So we're going to go ahead and get that garlic in there. And people talk about the trinity of seasonings, flavors, whatever. And a lot of times, you know, like with stews or soups, it's going to be your onion, your celery, and depends on who you are, carrots, whatever. For me, this right here is the holiest of smells. Garlic, onion, and bacon cooking. You can't get better than that.
Leave a thumbs up for Ayanka's Trinity of cooking smells.
Good.
Bacon, onion, garlic.
All right. So
I've got a comment request as you're doing that next thing. Lady PMS Sparkle.
So it's common practice in some very high-level restaurants that even if they're not putting bacon, onion, and garlic into any of their meals that they're making, they will still have it grilling on the side to create the aromatic smell to make you hungrier while you're waiting for your food, so you order more.
Oh, that's just evil.
all right.
I can one up that. When I used to work at Johnny Carino's, they would pop it on one of those hot fajita skillets and walk it through the whole restaurant right before they opened.
It's so good. I wish we had smell-o-vision.
Well, you can just do the Garrett trick and go to your fridge. If you have a jar of minced garlic, crack it open and go, you know. Or if you have that garlic and an onion and some bacon, just go ahead and start grilling it up right now. And you're partway to cooking Ayanka's collard greens and bacon.
There you go. Okay, so I had mentioned that we could use chicken broth or vegetable broth. I like to use vegetable broth because it's milder in flavor. I mean, I prefer it. We also need to use some apple cider vinegar, and we're going to need the brown sugar as well. Collard greens, greens in general tend to be bitter, and not a lot of people like the bitter. So I'm going to sweeten it up and cut that with some of the apple cider vinegar and the brown sugar. And so that's going to sweeten up the whole flavor in general, which is amazing, and kind of give a little bit more caramelization to your onions, which I don't know about you, but that's not a bad thing. So we're going to go ahead and do some apple cider vinegar. I'm going to do a tablespoon because I don't want too much vinegar, but I want a little bit in there. So we're going to start with that. And you can already smell it. It's got this nice smell to it of just, I don't know, that vinegar, but it's nice. It's very aromatic. So I'm going to go ahead and get our brown sugar. And this is going to help thicken up what's in the pan as well. So for brown sugar, we are going to go ahead and go with a 1/3 cup. And it doesn't have to be packed. It doesn't have to be even. I'm just going to throw that in. And then let's give that a nice stir.
Oh, that looks so delicious. Now, remind us what's in this pot again.
So far, we have bacon, we have onion, garlic, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and a 1/3 cup of unpacked. I used light brown sugar, but you can use dark brown sugar if you'd like that instead. I'm not really sure the difference. I just always use light.
All right.
Oh, there you go, from my cameraman.
Well, again, I didn't quite hear what cameraman said.
He said that the darker has a higher molasses content to it.
You'll get a little bit more of a molasses flavor with dark brown sugar.
Okay,
Learn something
got
new.
it. Hey, thank you.
All right. So that looks nice. I'm going to keep it here at about a medium heat, and I'm going to go ahead and add our collard greens.
I'm curious how she's going to add it. Don't say anything yet. Okay, she's just upends the entire bowl. I was starting to wonder if she was going to put it a handful at a time. Nope, just upend bowl.
Dump it in. Now this is where we're going to need our vegetable broth. We're going to use we're going to start with a 1/3 of a cup on that as well. Because we don't want it to be soupy. We're going to let it cook down with all of the moisture for the collard greens to get cooked down and married into the rest of the ingredients. But you can add more or you can do less if you want. Instead of doing a 1/3, you could do a 1/4 of a cup. I'm going to go ahead and do a 1/3 of a cup though.
I love your little measuring cup.
You like that? And then I like to just give it a little circle around. Kind of like pouring melted butter on popcorn. I'm a foodie, can't you tell? Oh, I'm wearing yellow and blue. There it is. All right.
There's her work apron.
So we're going to go ahead and pop a lid on this. And I'm going to just...
And what does putting the lid on it do?
So the lid is going to keep all of the moisture, I guess, recycling in on itself to break down the rawness of our collard green, and it's going to make it that softer collard green.
Okay. It does a thing. Got it.
Yes. Okay, so I want to go ahead and we are going to get our apples prepped for the fried apples. Now I call it fried apples because we're kind of sort of frying them in a pan of butter. So that's what we're calling it, but it's apple, cinnamon, sugar, butter, deliciousness. So we're going to go ahead and start prepping. So what we need to do is
sounds a little bit like the apple stuff that was served at Outback.
It's kind of a hijacked recipe almost from the fried apples that you would get at Cracker Barrel. And those are delicious.
Ah.
Yeah.
They are.
Yes.
So inspired by.
Inspired. Yes. We'll say inspired. So I need to peel my apples.
Sorry. She's going to peel apples. Those are just joining in. We've got Baroness Ayanka from the wetlands. We are about halfway through. We're hitting the 4 o'clock. So she's been cooking for just under an hour. She's got collard greens on the stove that are sweating down. She'd mixed bacon and onion and garlic and brown sugar and apple cinnamon vinegar. Oh, I remembered all of it. Look at me, like I know what I'm talking about.
Look at you.
And then in the oven at 350, I think you said? 350. She has a corn casserole that was a box of Jiffy cornbread mix, a can of corn kernels that she had strained, a can of creamed corn, 8 ounces of sour cream, 2 eggs. There was something else, but I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Salt.
Salts, obviously.
Oh, half a cup of butter.
Half a cup of melted butter. Half a stick of melted butter. Awesome. All right. So she's just peeling those apples like a pro. If you want to jump in, you're here on our Discord live with us right now and you would like to participate, we would love to have you. There's been some wonderful conversations on the general event chat as text, and I've been reading some of those out as we go along. If you have a question, you're welcome to leave a comment there and say that you have a question, and I'll acknowledge you and give you some time with your mic and or camera on so you can address Ayanka personally.
What'd I do?
Just like that. Oh, wait, you? Was that cameraman?
No, that was Mike.
Oh, that was Mike. Hi. Do you have, Garrick, do you have a comment or a question for Ayanka that you want to share with her?
Like it smells amazing.
It smells amazing.
I think someone went to his fridge, opened up that jar of minced garlic he was talking about.
Mike.
Let's go with the
so
next
we
random
are-
question that I've got here.
Okay.
If that's all
real
right with
quick,
you while you're peeling. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
One moment, because we're about to. All right. My apples are peeled, but take a look at those greens.
Oh,
They are
yeah,
nice
they've
and
really
golden.
reduced down.
They reduce down about half to start, and you just keep them cooking, and they'll reduce down even more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get these stirred together. Now, if you noticed, I haven't put in any seasonings yet. And the reason I didn't do that is because in my mind, I want these to be wilted down and the flavors all mixed together before I add the additional seasonings of salt, pepper, and Tony's. Because we live in the South, you gotta have Tony's.
Tony's, for those of you who are not aware, she is referring to Tony seasonings. When you put that in there, I was wondering maybe you could hold, there she is, she's going to hold it to the camera. It looks just like that. It's a Creole seasoning.
Tony's
that
Asher.
she'll be.
All right, so most recipes will tell you salt and pepper to taste, so just do exactly that. Like Gavin said earlier, you want to keep doing this throughout the cooking process. So I'm just giving a few twists of that for the salt. I'm going to do a bit with our pepper as well. Now, because we are using the Tony's, I'm probably not going to be adding additional salt after this first one because Tony's can be salty. Well, it is salty, so you don't want to overdo it on the salt. But with our seasonings, we're going to just do it to taste. And right now, since I'm not tasting it, we're doing it to sight. And that, to me, looks like a good start. And we'll go ahead and get all of those mixed together.
To be in her kitchen right now, smelling that is, if I could have one wish right now in this COVID era, I would wish to be in her kitchen right now, smelling the wonderful things that she's cooking.
All right, so I'm going to keep that still at a medium heat. We're going to let it cook and reduce those collard greens down a bit more and let all of those seasonings and flavors start to mix and mash and do their amazing things. We're going to give that a little bit of time. Now we're going to go ahead and get our apple sliced and ready for cooking. So I have, if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it if you're an apple person. These are amazing. I have these ready to go. I'm going to take this, put it right on top, and just push. And it's a beautiful little blossom. So I'm going to just pop those right back into the bowl that I had previously used. Get that core out.
Now, I've seen apples go brown. Are you doing anything to avoid that, or you're going to work with them so quickly that it doesn't matter?
Yeah, so if you want to avoid that, you can always throw in a little bit of lemon juice. Not too much because it's lemon. But you can throw in a little bit of lemon juice that helps with the browning. I guess it's the oxidization, something like that. But I'm going to be using these pretty much right away. And plus, they're going to be cooking anyways and getting a little brown, so you're not going to notice a difference.
All right, while you core that, let's grab another question from my bank here. You had mentioned that you were a park monarch and you're hoping to become a kingdom monarch once this whole COVID thing is done, and because you feel that you're stronger at a physical level than this whole online digital thing that we're doing right now. So once,
Yes.
sorry,
No, it's all right.
once
This is a very juicy apple, and it just all over my face. So
okay.
take with that what you will. But that's what my face was for.
Okay, it was a juicy apple. Where would you, thinking about the current state of COVID and what it's done to the wetlands, because it's affected all of the kingdoms slightly differently.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you want your kingdom, the wetlands, to be in 2 years? We heard Queen Surreal's response and where she's hoping the CK will be in 2 years, but as a wetlander, where would you like your kingdom to be in 2 years?
Well, I know we've probably seen some decline in numbers because interest is hard to keep up with, especially when it's not in person. Like I said, me being an in-person kind of person, my level of activity has definitely dropped because I find it harder to do things online, which is why I was so excited to do this. And this is something that I can share. But for our kingdom, I'd like to see our numbers to get back up to where they were and continue growing the way they were. We have, over the past couple years especially, we've had a very large number of younger players coming into this game, and we've seen a huge culture shift. And I think it's absolutely wonderful to see how these kids and their excitement and love for all of it is helping us grow and expand our world and community. And that's what I want to see. I want to see our numbers back up. I want to see them to continue growing. And I think that is what every kingdom is going to want to see really in the end. Okay, I got to get back to this. We got to do our other
Yes.
stick of butter. Yes, we're cooking. We're about to throw some more butter in here. So
More butter.
more butter. So I'm going to go ahead and take this pan here. I'm going to go ahead and put it onto a medium heat just to get us going and melty. So while we're doing that, let's go ahead and get the seasoning that we need for this together and ready. So it's going to be butter, it's going to be cinnamon, I'm going to use brown sugar again. I'm probably going to use a little bit of regular white sugar. And I put it as a optional item. I put ground nutmeg as well because I like that nice little spice that it gives you without it being overbearing if you use it correctly. So let's go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you were going to use nutmeg.
Yes, I love nutmeg. I love ginger as well. A lot of times I'll use ginger, but I'm out of it right now because I made something that had an apple pie kind of flair to it a couple months ago, and I used the last of it. So, okay, so we're getting our butter melted. We've got our apples are ready, and so I am getting our cinnamon, sugar, nutmeg, and brown sugar out and ready. So, regular sugar. So the brown sugar, we are going to do a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Okay, I want that to be ready for me to go ahead and put in there once it's melty and good.
Got it.
And I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of regular sugar, or just about. So if you look, I'm right there at the line. It could be a little over, it could be a little under. That's up to you and how sugary you want your apples. You can also change the type of apples that you use. You could do a combination. I love Gala apples, so I just want the simplicity of that flavor. But if you like Granny Smith and have a little more tart flavor, you can do all Granny Smith, or you can do a combination of the two, which is also perfectly acceptable. It's really up to you and what you want. All right, so this butter is almost ready. We're going to go ahead and dump those in anyways. I'm gonna go
How many apples was that? That was 4, 5?
I did 5 apples because I like a lot of apples. We're gonna do a
Nothing wrong with that.
the top.
More apples. Yum.
Boom. And we're going to let that start melting down. Now, I have additional butter to use because sometimes I want more butter. And like I said, I eyeball things, but we started with half a stick. All right.
Oh, that looks so good.
We may add more of the brown sugar and the butter just to get it more melty. And I think we're going to start with more butter.
When in doubt, add more butter.
More butter, yes. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let that get all melted down as well. Let me grab a spoon.
So Garrick from CK wants to assure you that when you make your run for Wetlands Kingdom Monarch, when we're back to face things,
Yes.
that he'd vote for you.
Thank you.
So you have a vote from the CK.
Perfect.
And and that he learned from Teddy Rexbin that apparently you can use alchemy to turn nutmeg into gold.
Really? There you go. All right, so let's take a look at these collard greens. See how they're a darker color now? They're not as bright. And you can also see how our liquid has cooked down. So this is my favorite part of cooking. Taste testing.
Yes.
No, we need to know, do we need more salt? Do we need more pepper? Do we need more Tonys? For my cameraman who does not like bitter things, do we need more sugar? So we're going to go ahead and see how this is. All right. Be very jealous right now.
We are. Oh, I assure you.
Needs more Tonys.
More Tonys. Okay.
More Tonys. I think the sweetness is
Yeah,
right.
and Eric had right as you put it in your mouth, was shouting on the Discord chat, more Tonys.
Yes, more Tonys.
And Surreal's response was nom 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 nom.
Num num. Yes. Okay. I think that should do us. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cover that. I'm going to turn the temperature down to low because I don't need it so much to cook as I need it to just keep marrying all those flavors together. So we should be good there. So let's get that butter down. You can see we've got some bubbling going with the butter and the sugars in there. So we're going to go ahead and get this mixed up a bit more so those can cook. And let's go ahead and get our cinnamon and our nutmeg going. So for the cinnamon, I used my other things. So we're going to go ahead and use the smaller. I'm going to use a teaspoon. I'm going to start there with a teaspoon of cinnamon. Now, cinnamon can be a bit on the spicy side. Thank you. It can be a bit on the spicy side, so we can soften that with more sugar if we want. It's really up to you. Again, this is your meal. How do you like it? How does your family like it? That's what's important in the end. All right, so the nutmeg, I'm not going to measure it. I'm going to just kind of give a couple little sprinkles. Nutmeg is a bit, you're giggling. Nutmeg is
I am giggling because I just had my ancestor go, Mihaya.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get those mixed in.
Oh, that looks so good. Like, I want to go to the store right now and get some apples. Oh, yes. I think this with like a scoop of vanilla ice cream would be amazing.
Yes. What I'll probably end up doing with what doesn't get eaten tonight is freeze it, and then I can thaw it out, throw it in a small casserole dish, and then bake it with like an apple pie crumble, or do cobbler.
Ooh, yum.
So I'm gonna go ahead and cover that just to get it going. All right, so we've got a little less than a half hour on our corn casserole. So we're gonna start getting ready for the next item on our menu, and that is the pork chops.
All right, and we've got about 45 minutes left until feast is supposed to technically be on the table. At that time, we will have, let me scroll on up. We'll have Lord Torque, and I believe he is on the channel already, just kind of hanging out with us. He'll be walking us through the CK website on how you could use that website to create a beautiful web page for your park. So CK, or stay with us. If you're from Out Kingdom and you're joining us, you are welcome to come and see how that works. And maybe talk to Torque about what it might take to help your kingdom get a website like that.
Right. So we have time before we have to start cooking the pork chops. So we're going to just get them prepped a bit. What I want to do, so something my grandma taught me a long time ago, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard this as well, is to soak your meat in milk or buttermilk. I'll just use regular milk. That's just something I'll do. Sometimes if it's chicken, I'll use buttermilk. If I'm doing like a fried chicken, I'll use buttermilk. But I'm going to use just regular milk.
How many pork chops you got there?
So I have 4 pork chops, 4 boneless pork chops, and I'm just going to get them into the bowl and move them around. I just touched raw meat, so I'm going to wash before I touch anything else, because that's gross.
Remembering back from Sir Gavin's presentation at 3 o'clock or at 2 o'clock, was him commenting about how often people who cook, how often they wash their hands. So I wish I had thought to put a hand wash counter, and I would have put it somewhere on screen, and I would have put it up one number. But I didn't.
That would be funny. Now, I'm not a hand washer. Like, I use soap every single time, but with meat, definitely. All right, so I'm going to give it a nice good covering of milk just to let it soak, and it's just going to hang out. Because right now, we're just getting things together to cook it, to batter and fry it. So since we're frying it, we're going to be using flour. So I'm going to get a couple containers, because we're just going to do milk and flour.
So I've seen some cooking shows. I think Alton Brown did a comment on this on one of his shows, talking about why proteins like this are soaked in milk. I don't remember what he said, but I remember that there is a reason why you would soak a raw protein, a chicken or a pork in milk.
From Alton Brown, yeah, he would have the science. You know who else might have the science behind that? Sir Gavin. He knows all kinds of things. Is he still with us?
No, I think he's already fallen off. I don't see him connected anymore to our Discord, which is a shame. But hopefully, if he watches the replay of this, it's streamed up on my YouTube channel and is linked on the Kingdom of the Wetlands Kingdom page under Ayanka's shout out post. If we're getting excited and ready to start this, maybe he can hop into the comment section and give us a little bit of the science behind why on earth would you put raw meat in milk.
All right. So since I'm only doing 4 pork chops, I don't need a ton of flour. So I've just got a container with about that much. So I guess half a container. I'm going to use a tablespoon of cinnamon because I want to taste that cinnamon in that. So I'm going to go ahead and rough measure. If a little extra gets in there, that's fine. Who cares? That looks good. And I'm going to do the same as I did with the apples. I'm going to throw in a little bit of nutmeg just for that extra little flavor. There we go. It's a little granular in there. I got to break it up more, but that's okay. I'm also going to do a little bit of Tony's. Not a whole lot.
Tony's in this too.
A little bit of Tony's. Because Tony's. All right.
Because Tony's.
Because Tony's. Hey, this girl grew up in Yankee Land of Connecticut, and I didn't know what Tony's was. And girl, when I moved into my new apartment, I didn't have any seasoning. And the first things I bought was salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and Tony's. That's all I needed. I mean, as long as you're not doing something Italian, that's all you need.
Fair enough. Garrick joined the chant and said all the Tonys, and Surreal, wondering and intrigued about what the soaking meat in milk really does to the meat, is going to go look it up. So hopefully she finds that and she's able to give us a link or a comment, or maybe she pops her video and mic back on and shares with us what she found.
Can you smell that yet?
I want to smell that now. Oh my God. I feel like I should be able to. Oh, it is so good.
The smell is good. It doesn't need anything else as far as I can tell based off the smell. Once it cooks down more, we're going to go ahead and taste it because, again, that's the best part of cooking. See how that's cooked down more as well?
I do. I can see more of the bacon now than I can of the leaves.
Look at that. One of the things I love about collard greens is they're so versatile. I mean, yes, they have their bitterness, but they'll take on the flavors that you cook them in. I just did basically an Italian sausage collard green the other day. I had hot Italian sausage. I had some of that giant bag of collard greens that I had still left over. I had a can of diced tomatoes, and I went to town. And I think I ate on that for about 3 days because it was so good. And it reheats great too. I mean, collard greens are already wilted down, so you don't have to worry about weirdness. It just reheats nicely, and it was delicious. All right.
And it doesn't sound like it's a very expensive dish. So for those who are going off to college in their dorms.
Yeah, I mean, it's one pot. I didn't have to transfer things to other containers and cook it over here and then cook it over there. I just did it all in one pot. It's a one pot meal. And that's what's so simple and delicious about it. I mean, if you wanted to throw in, instead of just bacon, you could have done ground pork. Just throw in ground pork and just cook that up and then make a one pot meal with just that. I mean, season it and go. It's delicious. All right. So we've got some time here. So we're right at 20 minutes left for our cornbread. You know what? Let's go ahead and take a peek and see how that corn casserole's coming.
Sneak peek. Cameraman getting down there.
Oh, it's starting to get a little golden. That's so going to be delicious. Something you can do with your corn casserole, if you like to have a little variety, is you can add pickled jalapenos, like your diced jalapenos to it. You could do a jar of, those hatch chilies, put that in there, throw some cheese in it. Also delicious.
You had me at cheese.
I know, right? Do you have more questions and stuff? We're just
I haven't. Oh, we're just hanging out a little bit. Okay, let me go.
Yeah, go ahead and ask a question while I get the oil.
All right, sounds good. Surreal's still doing her research. Okay, so you had talked earlier about where you would love to see your kingdom, the wetlands, in 2 hours. Camera's foggy.
Camera.
There we go. Better. There we go.
There we go. So you had talked about where you wanted to see the kingdom in 2 years.
Right.
Cyril had talked about where she wanted to see her kingdom in 2 years. But the bigger question is, where do you want to see Amtgard as a whole in 2 years?
That's another tough question. I mean, with the way this game grows with our culture, who knows? You can't really pinpoint a specific thing. I mean, the way you've got players who've been in this game for 10 years. You've got players who've been in it since the beginning, you know, and so they've seen all these changes happen. And just in my own career of just 5 years, I've seen tons of change in just those 5 years. And I've seen a lot of that change happen in just the past 2 to 3 years. So with the change of our culture as a whole, and then our culture within Amtgard with the new players coming in, there's really not one thing I can say I want to see, but as a whole, I just want to see us to continue to grow in a positive way, the way it has. I mean, yes, the old stories are fun and fantastic to listen to, but the way our community is now, I feel as though for myself, with the person that I am and the people that I'm around in this game, I'm happier with how it is now and would not like to see it revert back to what it was. So seeing the continued growth in a positive way is what I want. And I think that's what we're going to get to. I'm going to move
All right, thank you.
around real quick. Since our collard greens are pretty much done and they're just kind of hanging out and staying warm in that nice low temperature, I'm going to move them to the back burner. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the back burner on to low, and I'm just going to shift that back, and I'm going to leave this burner off for right now and let that cool before I put my new pan on there for us to go ahead and start doing the pork chops. What is our time? We are just at 4:30. Great. So, next question.
Ooh, next question.
Sorry.
That was all of the kind of no, it's okay, it's okay. That's all the really hard ones I have on that list. You know what? Here's one that I had saved because it was asked at me for my you know what? I'm not going to go to a question. Surreal had her report ready with the meat. So go ahead and flip on your camera. I'll make you the focus, Mr. Real, and you can tell us what you saw, what you found, what you researched.
Hang on. 1 second. I gotta go back to where I was. I had popped out her channel and now I don't know how to get back to where I can see myself.
You look beautiful though.
Okay. Oh, there I am. Okay. Well, thank you. So I looked it up, and a couple people said it was nonsense, but for the most part, what's the word? The consensus seems to be that milk contains lactic acid, and the lactic acid works to tenderize the meat. So it does make it more tender because it's breaking down the proteins before you cook it. And that's why you soak things in milk for 24 hours or overnight before you cook them. Or even just a few minutes. That it's the lactic acid in the milk will tenderize the meat. Here we go.
Well, there it is.
All right.
Science.
So it makes it soft. Thank you.
Okay, so I did forget to add one ingredient to our flour, and that's just a tablespoon of regular sugar.
That's for the pork chops, right?
And that's for our pork chops. So you got your cinnamon sugar in your pork chops. So that's all set. Give that another little stir just to mix that in together. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and get our pork chops going. So I am actually going to be using, I think I might need to move that over. This is a huge cast iron. I'm actually going to move this pan to over here. There we go. Well, yes, thank you. Put that on low. There we go. I'm going to kind of juggle things a little bit real quick. Is this out of the way? It's okay
Yeah,
right
that'll
there?
be fine.
Okay. I don't want him to get the cord on all of the stuff. It gets sticky. You know, it's sticky fingers. Okay. So,
sticky cords.
so we had to look this up because he has a glass top stove and I'm a cast iron cooker. So I brought my cast iron, which I refurbished myself. It's beautiful. With the help of my cameraman. Very helpful. But I love cast iron and I'd rather fry things in it. So if you do use cast iron on this, don't take your pan and go like that across it because it's glass. It's going to scratch the glass. So I'm going to be very careful and just keep it in one spot, but I'm going to use the cast iron. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. I'm going to go about between medium and high just to start. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of oil in there. Now, we're not going to fry the pork chops like deep fried. We're going to fry them on both sides and then flip them. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with some oil in here. Ooh, that's brand new. Now, in case you don't cook with oil often or don't know, oil expands as it heats up. That's why you hear stories of people with their fried turkeys burning their house down because they used too much oil and didn't follow the directions of oil lines. So oil expands as it heats up. So I don't want to use a lot of oil. So I'm going to just do a nice little amount that's going to coat the bottom. And I'm going to let it start expanding as it heats. Now I'm going to keep an eye on it though, because I might want to add more, but I don't want it to be completely heated up and add more oil. That drops the temperature down and you can get splattering, and nobody likes oil splatters because they burn. So we're going to go ahead and let that start heating up. And I am going to stir these apples. And you can see that they're getting soft.
Oh, that looks so good.
Sharp edges are getting rounded.
Oh, this is going to be so good. I can't wait to eat this and put it in my mouth. All right.
So chatter on the Discord about oil. Some news to me as oil expands when you heat. A comment that oil goes explode when you add the frozen turkeys, not confirmed by none other than Clue the Bard.
Yeah.
That sounds like a story to me, Clue. So, well, when we have social time, you can tell us the story about how you discovered that oil goes boom.
I hope you didn't burn your house down because that's just awful. Oh, all right. So I can feel the heat already coming up. I can see a little bit of bubbling going on. It's going to take a little bit more for it to heat up, but it's really hard for me not to shift my pan around because I'm a pan shifter and I can't do that with this on the glass. This is very difficult. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and we've got, if you want to take a look, you can see the bubbles?
Yes.
Yes. And I can hear it too a little bit, like there's a couple tiny little pops coming out. So we're going to go ahead and get our pork chops ready to go. So I'm going to take one, just give a little drip. I'm going to throw it in there. Throw it in there.
I noticed that you're using a fork rather than your hands. If I were doing this, I would be like sticking my fingers in there and I'd end up with club hand.
Yeah, that's why I'm not this time. So, because I'm gonna go ahead and double dip.
So what you're saying is normally you would club hand this.
Yes, but then I have to wash my hands again right away, and I don't want to do that because I'm a lazy cooker.
So for those of you who don't know, club hand is Alton Brown from Good Eats commenting about when you're dredging in liquid and then in flour and then back to liquid, it just coats and coats and coats, and you end up with a big mass on your hands and you can't do anything with it.
All right. Turn that down.
There's little wires going on here for me, and I'm trying to
Fires.
wires. All of my
Oh,
my headset wires are. Hang on.
okay.
There we go.
Stew.
Oh, this looks so good. And one of the things that Sir Gavin had talked about in his session, which had started at 2:00 this afternoon, the one right before this one, was that when you're doing feast, you want to make sure that one of the things that you hit is that you get it done on time. And Ayanka has a time limit. She's got to be done by 5:00. She's got her proteins cooking, and I can't imagine that these are going to take too terribly long to cook up. And 25 minutes.
Yes, you depending on what your protein is and how you're cooking it is going to determine.
Two.
Ooh, bless you.
Oh goodness! Tell me, cameraman pointed his mouth on. Which...
Yeah. So okay, I'm going to turn that down to smidge. So depending on what you're cooking and how you're cooking it is going to determine when you start the process of your meat. So, you know, with us raiders, we have the raider pit. You've all seen that monster. So that thing, that process.
Is that the one that Greasy cracked his head open on?
Yes, that's the one. That giant trailer pit that we have. Yeah. So with that starts early in the morning because you have to feed the belly of that beast with wood just to heat it up. So that process starts early in the morning, somebody getting up and starting to fire up the smoke pit. So you've got things like that. But when I did, right over there. So when I did the feast, what was it, last summer or spring? I can't remember. But when I did the feast where I did the Salisbury steak, green beans, potatoes, God, that was so good. The meat, that part of the process was done at the very end. And that's from start to finish of that process. That's from opening up the meat, mixing it on the table with all of the seasonings, forming it into patties, and getting it on the grill. So, I mean, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it is going to really determine that time frame. One of the things I like to do is come in with a plan. I'm a planner, and I will create a schedule on when certain things need to be done. And that schedule for me is I have to start this item by this time. Now, if I start that item beforehand, that's fine. But this has to start at 2 p.m. This has to start at 3:45, and that keeps me on schedule. Most of the times, I end up ahead of schedule, which is so much better than being behind schedule.
Indeed, because that ensures that you have it out there on time.
Yes. Ooh, watching me in time. You good? All right.
So you had said that you're a planner and you like to plan and schedule things.
Yes.
How do you do that? How do you start the plan? Like I would be like, okay, I'm gonna where would I start?
So I start with figuring out what it is I want to make. And for a feast, especially for a large group of people, I'm not gonna make something I've never made before, because then you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. Now, also, you want to do, and this is like a cardinal rule with raider cooking, you do a test cook. You can end up doing 2 or 3 test cooks on the menu that you're planning. So when I did the Salisbury steak one, I did a test cook a couple weeks beforehand to see if I needed to adjust anything, and to also figure out the the time frame that I needed, just a basic idea of, okay, if I start these at this time, this is going to be ready at that time, but that's going to be ready at that time. So I need to figure out that layering of activities, kind of like the way you saw me do this cook. I did this at the beginning, but then I jumped in and worked on this, and now that's going, so let's go ahead and finish this, because that's got to cook down. All right, great, let's move on to this. So it's really, planning is also doing the legwork beforehand and putting it into action. So a test cook is always a good idea. Let's take a look at these.
Don't shake it.
I was like, ah. All right, so gonna do that. And put that back down. God, it smells amazing. Oh, you can smell all of that.
I wish I
cinnamon.
could.
All right, let's take a peek. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Now, as I flip these and turn them, I also moved the outside to the inside. So if you watch, this back corner that's on the outside is going to get moved to the inside.
Oh.
All right, so that got a little crisp, and that's okay. So this one, whoop, that one we're losing. Let me seal that. We're going to go at it from a different angle. There we go.
So some comments, I think, from here. Clue, in speaking about the turkeys go boom, or oil goes boom. He didn't do it personally, but he had a few people that it happened to where they just added that turkey too quickly to the frying oil.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch the news every year at Thanksgiving, you hear about this house fire, that house fire. Oh, somebody else did this wrong, and that's why like news reports will do a how-to almost every year it seems, because somebody's going to burn their house down.
Someone is, yes. So I had Starshine just join in. She was here earlier for Surreal's cake baking. It sounds like she did purchase the collard greens because she was going to cook right along with you, but had to run out to buy some powdered sugar for her frosting. And so she doesn't know how to use them. So while we're getting the last bit of it ready, do you want to recap some things that you could do with collard greens for her? While I get her the link for our YouTube?
For the collard greens, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so I could just go over the process, really. So for my collard greens, we use, is this splatter sound too loud for y'all? Because it's very loud.
It sounds delicious.
Okay. So for collard greens, I use 2 large stalks. I rinse them, and then I de-vein them basically with the thicker stalk in the center. I believe we refer to it also as deboning. So we
yeah, that was me.
We rinsed it, we deboned the collard greens, and then we chopped them into chunks. Not too small because collard greens will break down into a smaller size. They reduce a lot. Here you go.
So what this pot is it's bacon that she browned, and then she put in chopped onion and roughly chopped garlic.
Yes.
She put in some apple cider vinegar and some brown sugar, and the collard greens and Tony's, and seasoned to taste, I think. Did I miss any ingredients?
Okay.
This, what we're looking at right now, is the corn casserole. So it's a box of Jiffy cornbread. It is corn kernels and cream corn, some sour cream. Looks like it still has a little bit to go, maybe?
No, ma'am. We can take it out now because it's going to sit there and kind of finish cooking itself.
Okay. And you do not want overcooked dry cornbread. So she put her butter knife in there. It had a little bit of baked stuff on it, but she's going to go ahead and pull it anyway so that as it sits it it finishes cooking. Starshine's question was, in the collard greens, you didn't massage them?
Massage them? Are you supposed to massage them? I usually just stir the crap out of them.
Maybe that's what massaging is beating them
Yeah.
up somehow.
I don't know.
She's typing-
I've never heard of that before.
there was a little bit of salt starshine that was added to the pot, but that was after they had already reduced down just a little bit, so that way it was at a spot where it could get incorporated.
Texas pork chop. A little bit more. All right, those pork chops are almost done. I've got the temperature down to low. I'm not used to cooking with cast iron on one of these glass tops, and I'm seeing that it is a bit different, so I'm adjusting. I've got my temperature down to low at this point. So again, with cooking, a lot of times you got to just pay attention and just keep adjusting the temperatures as needed. That's what I always find is happening in my world.
And I'm not helping by asking you questions and interacting. These are the apples. So this was 5 gala apples, a stick and a half or so of butter, cinnamon, a dash of nutmeg, some brown sugar, some regular sugar. Oh, literally, I'm drooling. Like, I'm so good. This looks so good. And she cut that with the spoon, with the little plastic spoon she's using. Plastic? Silicone?
There you go.
Oh, looks so good. And looks almost done, which is great because you've got about 10, it's a little less than 15 minutes left.
13 minutes.
13 minutes is going to hit the table. Starshine said that the lady at the store, when she bought the collard greens, told her that she needed to salt and massage them before cooking them. So she's really glad that it doesn't sound like she has to do that.
You know what? Thinking about that, what it might be doing is salt. Salt will help extract the water from it. So like if I'm doing, I don't know if you've ever had eggplant parmesan. If I'm doing eggplant parmesan, I'm going to slice my eggplant. I'm going to salt it and let it sit there. And you're going to notice that where the salt is, you're going to get little bubbles of moisture. So it draws out the moisture. So I'm wondering if that's what she's talking about, where if you massage it with the, I guess basically cut it up, mix it with salt, it draws out moisture. I'm betting that's what it is.
But for this dish, she did not do that because she wanted kind of this almost like, it looks like there's some sauce there inside of the pan as you're cooking, which is the bacon grease, some of the onion that got reduced down, and then of course the moisture from the collard greens. So at least for this dish, it doesn't look like you need to do that, though maybe there's a dish that calls for salt massage. Oh no, that's the one that you cut into though.
Yes, it is. That's the test one, so it doesn't matter. There, all better. Never happens. There we go. So these, look at those. Now, if I used egg, it would have cooked differently, but I didn't want to use egg. I wanted to use the milk. I prefer the milk. I don't know why. It's just my thing. But yeah, so I'd say that is done. So let's.
Ooh, so just in time, you're gonna plate.
Just in time, we're gonna plate. Let's go ahead and get this plated. So we're gonna start with our collard greens. I'm gonna go ahead and turn these all off. I'm gonna take these collard greens. Oh, that's the wrong spoon. I'm gonna stir that a little bit. Look at that. Get a nice plate.
Oh, so good.
I hope y'all are hungry. Go ahead.
This is torture. Like, I so wish that we were here physically and we could eat this. Selfie would like you to please add package that up and send it to her so she can eat some.
Right. There we go. Set that over there. And then
Oh, so good. Starshine, since I see you here, once we finish with Ayanka's plating, hopefully there's just enough time. I would love to see your cake. So if you've got your cake ready, my dear, cut a slice of it, put it on a plate. And then you can set up your camera and you can show us what you made, where she was following along with
Sorry, my
Surreal.
power.
Uh-oh, we lost Reno.
the power cable on the camera just came undone.
One moment.
That's okay. No problem. Camera is thinking very hard right now. I've been unplugged. What do I do?
Come on. Any day now.
I see a button with a light on it. There it goes. Maybe.
There we go.
Are we almost there?
Oh, wait. Almost. There we go.
It's thinking.
Yes.
It's thinking. Yeah, yay!
Now for the corn casserole.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the corn casserole.
All right, let's move that out of the way. You can see the corn casserole, how moist this is.
Yes.
You can see that.
Oh
Now,
my
if you want it
goodness.
thicker, you just do a smaller, deeper dish. All right, so let's go ahead and do a little extra here because why not? We are going to, let me see. Remember that apple juice that I mentioned?
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and take some of that and we are going to just drizzle that over the top of that pork chop.
And that's harking back to Gavin's presentation where he had said sauces
Yes.
don't throw away
Yes,
flavor.
and there is your meal.
There's your feast, guys. Those of you who did dessert, can I get you all to turn on your cameras and show us a slice of dessert so we can have the full meal?
Yeah, I'm gonna go slice it now.
Thanks, Cereal. I would love to see how Starshine's turns out. I know that she's here, I know that she's listening. Hopefully she's willing to go and do that. Oh, so jealous.
Mm.
So jealous.
The apple.
Cuts with
So
a butter
jealous.
knife.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do it down here in the South, but where I grew up, pork chops with applesauce was a popular and common thing. I'm not sure where that comes from, but it's so good. Pork chops with applesauce, especially
Yes.
like cinnamon applesauce, just, out of the Mott's jar. It's delicious and amazing.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, here's Cereal with the cake. And there's dessert.
Mm.
Cereal somehow muted herself, so I have no idea what she's saying. But it looks good.
That does look good. I'm staring at the screen. Take a bite, girl.
I was saying, oh no, I'm all alone in the house with a chocolate cake all to myself.
No, it's horrible.
Oh,
There it is.
Oh.
And now I'm going to cover part of the stream. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see Starshine's attempt at that very same cake. There it is. She said that she gave it a Texas twist. She put some little sugar cactus on it, which looks absolutely adorable. And if you're on Discord, you can see it in our text chat. So thank you so much, Starshine. That was amazing. How does it taste? Starshine, tell us how that tastes. And then I've got to go look her up in the org and see, because she joined us for Inebriart's perspective painting. In case you missed it, this is what I was painting, and it makes no sense. But then when you turn the canvas over,
I can get mine.
made sense. So it's King Arthur looking at Excalibur, trying to figure out what to do. That was my attempt at it.
It's dinner time.
It is dinner time.
Must not lick screen. Must not lick screen.
There it is.
Go for it. No judgment here.
None at all. Okay, so I think I found Starshine. She's only got up to her second dragon and her second rose.
Like that one better?
Your Majesty, with your permission, I would love to be able to try to contact the people there at Rivermore, send them links to these videos where she made this attempt. I'm about to show on the YouTube screen her attempt at that artwork, the same way as mine was. You can look at that on the Discord if you're on Discord. There was her painting.
Yes, let's recommend her. All this stuff.
Because, yeah, she participated in everything today, and it was just so wonderful. When I asked her how the cake tasted, she says that half of the cake is gone already, so it must have tasted really good.
I'll take a piece.
Yes, send a piece over here.
Well, that's
Awesome.
great.
I'm still waiting for my bon appetit at the end.
Oh, yes.
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit. Teeth.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on the stream. Thank you for participating here live with us on Discord, giving us your comments and your questions. Starshine, thank you so much for making dessert with us. And I hope that you are able to watch the stream later if you want to make the meal that Ayanka just made for us. That was the fried pork chop, the collard greens, the what was it? The fried apples, and then the corn casserole dish thing. Sounds so delicious. If you do, post your pictures on your social media, hashtag CKMR60. Let us know how that tastes. And thanks so much for joining us. If you're on the stream and want to continue, we've got Lord Torque up next, going to be talking about how to do your parks website. This is for the CK website. So CK is online. If you are interested in learning how to use your login to create the website for your park, stay tuned and stay with us. Again, thank you, Baroness Ayanka, for cooking for us and leading us through 2 hours of wonderful cooking in your kitchen.
Very welcome.
Thank you,
You're very
Ayanka. We love you.
I love you guys.